Hello and welcome back to another Island 54 development stream where I'm building a survival crafting game in Unity 3D and TypeScript for the backend. In my last stream, I should just check that we are indeed live on both Twitch and YouTube. Yes, we appear to be. So in my last stream, I was working on getting the pickup and drop actions working. I was hoping to debug the issues I was having with drop, but I didn't get around to that. I did do a tiny bit of a refactor. Hello, Aaron Demguy. Welcome. I did do a tiny bit of a refactor to relating to the way that locations were sent through. I might as well just show you what I did off stream. So previously, when I was sending entity updates, I had been sending through a transform and a coordinate, one of my chunk text coordinates in here. And that, I think, was going to start causing me issues if I started to send through, because when things are being picked up, they might lose their transforms and their locations and instead gain a parent and a slot for which inventory slot they're sitting in. And so the optionality was about to get really messy because I was interpreting an empty location as being just not defined, as opposed not being changed, as opposed to undefined. So instead, what I've done is I've created a new message type called location, and this itself then holds the coordinate, the transform, the parent, so that's the entity that contains this if it doesn't have a coordinate, and the slot that parent holds it in. So now, by specifying an empty location, that can be interpreted as this isn't being updated. Otherwise, if it is being sent, then I can specify the coordinate as undefined and transform as undefined to say that, no, it really doesn't have these, and instead will have these, and vice versa. So that simplifies things a little. Oops, let's not just drag random stuff around. So other than that change, I've just gone through and made my code mostly compile again. I noticed that I also have an issue down here. This is in my new refactored netcode, so this is not being executed yet. So I won't bother fixing this yet. Unless it refuses to run my code, in which case I guess I will have to fix it. Now, today I'm going to start off just fixing whatever that bug is that's stopping items from being placed back into the world. And then I'm hoping to actually integrate this new code. And this really does need to be the next step, and you will likely understand why once we get the drop code working. So let's just get everything open. And try to remember where I was. I assume I was actually working in the ticker service. And yes, this is the drop code I was working on. So the intended behavior here is when somebody requests that an item be dropped, we'll set the parent ID, we'll set the slot, and we'll pass that through to the entity server asking the location be set. Well, is that correct? Yeah, that does seem. It doesn't seem correct, does it? This is probably the issue that I have, which is we're actually intending to set not the location, but the parent. Is that right? No, we're meant to be setting the location. I'm confusing myself now. When we're dropping an item, we do want to set its location back into the world. We need to set it from this parent ID, that is the player. We need to set it from this slot so that the server knows which entity we're actually placing back into the world. We give it its target, which is the X, Y, and Z that the player was targeting. So that indeed does seem like it should work. Now I do have a compiler here. This is likely just related to my refactor. So we do just have this location field now. Okay, so I see no problem there. So next I'll go and look at the entity controller. Well, I should look at the entity route next. Just make sure that this is all appears to be doing the right thing. So it should be sending the parent ID, slot, location. That will bring it up into here, which will pull out the chunk, the hex, and the Y. Ah, this looks like IntelliJ has actually picked something up here. These should probably have awaits on them. And I suspect these won't actually even run without that. So it is quite important that that be right. Without the await, this will actually just create a promise. And without anything to depend on that promise, I don't think the code will ever actually run. But let's just keep on looking at the code. So it sends through the parent ID and the slot, and it sends through the location. So let's just double check this code. All this should do is update the entity itself. This has not been refactored in here. The location and things are still just stored at the top level. And sure enough, this should set the location and clear out the parent and the slot because it's being taken out of that inventory slot. So maybe that those awaits were what was going wrong here. I suspect I'm going to have a lot of these kind of mistakes. This actually needs to be location.transform. Location.transform. Lots of these bugs because I didn't finish my refactor, unfortunately, in location.transform. Still more bugs. Oops. Oh, I keep on doing that. Location.transform. Okay. So I'll try running this because the code looks right. I have fixed what looked like a bug. It's not happy with update factory. What's wrong with this? Location. That was already right. This needs a coord. And this transform belongs inside that. So this is all just still that refactor from after my last stream. What's wrong with this? Yep. No, I got this. This needs to include a parent. Sorry, I really should have done this, finished this refactor off stream. Not the most compelling viewing here. Restart it. All right. It's not going to give me the compiler errors, so I'm going to have to do this in a command prompt, and hopefully this will give us the error messages. In fact, looks fine, doesn't it? Okay, I'll close that. Try running it again in the debugger. And that looks healthier. All right. I've already got Unity up, don't I? I thought I had Unity running. No, I didn't. Now, Unity, my C# code will need some changes as well. They should be fairly minor to refactor to pull those, to change those location fields, but that should be a really small change here. Console in here, it doesn't like that. That needs to be location.transform, question mark.transform. Location.transform, location.transform. Okay. Is it only one more compile error? I think so. Nice. Lots of warnings in the troll, but that's all right. Hello, welcome back, Griffic. Currently just cleaning up after a little refactor I did yesterday afternoon. I have fixed what looked like a bug in my set location code as well, so that will hopefully correct it so that if we pick up a stone and put it down over in the middle of our sand, hopefully step out of the way so that the other player can come in, restart that, and we should hopefully see the stone in the middle, hopefully. Nope, still no. Okay. So it's time to debug that code. I'm going to assume that it is an issue in the set location code. Yeah, let's go with set location. So we're exactly where I was yesterday when I finished up the stream. The only difference here is that I've cleaned up where I used to send through the transform and the location inside the updates. I'm now embedding those in a nested object, and the parent and the slot. I'm now embedding those in a nested object to make it easier to interpret. If these ones here are undefined, that means these should be undefined. Whereas if the top level location object is undefined, it means it's not being changed. So that's just a better interpretation. Archaven, what's Archaven? I've not heard of Archaven. Is that your game, Griffic? Now, I know I have this compile error, that's fine. Oh, well, congratulations on getting that compiling again. It can be so hard when you leave a project for a while. Okay. So it's a set location that I think is going to be the issue. So I will just breakpoint in here. Now, I am expecting this, I think. Hello, Oslath. I believe this is a welcome back for Oslath. Glad you could join us again. Now, I am a little bit confused as to why the set location code is not already being called. And the reason for that is in the client, when I picked up a stone, the client added a command to the stone. And then when I put it down, it should have added a second command to the stone. And because I'm not acknowledging anything and I'm not deleting any command messages yet, I'm expecting that pickup and that put down to get executed on every tick forever after that. Obviously, it's not ideal behavior, but for now it should work. So I'm a bit concerned that it's never even, it doesn't appear to be executing this at all. So to test that, I'm just going to go and grab another stone from off the sand. And my hypothesis is that this will never actually execute my code. We do a drop. It does execute it. That's surprising. Yeah, I hate doing refactors that are too big. I've been quite careful on the refactor of the netcode, which is I'm hopefully going to move on to today. I've rewritten all of my netcode, all of the code that generates the updates back to the client. But until I turn it on, the code's still compiling, which I think is a handy approach. So it's still using the old version. I'll be able to write some unit tests for the new code and hopefully just switch it on, and it should all just start sending a lot less data back and forth. We're getting request timeouts. That's fine. That's just because I'm sitting on a breakpoint chattering away. We're trying to set the location. We've hopefully grabbed an entity. It occurs to me this is actually a silly way of doing it, isn't it? I'm grabbing... Oh, no, I do need to do this in two stages. I need to grab the entity... No, this is a silly way of doing it. I'm doing a query on the parent ID and the slot. And then I am requesting an update, updating its ID. So better would be to do an update using this query parameter. But this at least lets me check whether or not it's gonna, whether or not it is picking up the right entity. And sure enough, it's not. So I'm never seeing this parent entity, which is unfortunate. Now that might mean that the set parent is never executing correctly. I can't imagine developing on a phone, Ozleth. I'd find that so difficult. There was someone in chat yesterday, Tacos. I'm not sure if Tacos is in here at the moment, who is learning to code on a mobile. I'd be lost without my kind of big commercial editors. So if this query here is which query? This query here is failing. It could obviously be that my yes, this doesn't look right. Just here. This I'm pretty sure is meant to be just primary hand. And I can prove that by, I'm not sure if my server will recover from me being in that breakpoint. No, I think everything's crashed too badly. So in here, slot, in this case, is undefined. That's really not looking good. Okay, so I have multiple issues here. I'm just going to bring up a text editor just to get these, because I'm going to lose track otherwise. So my two problems are set parent not getting slot pass through. and set location is using badly formatted slot name. Okay. So just reduce the size of this a bit. It is overlapping my OBS window otherwise. Sounds like nested refactors there, Griffith. Okay. I don't even know where to start here. Well, let's start. Obviously, if we don't pass through a slot here, this code here is never going to work. So I'm even going to put a little check in here. If not parent ID or not slot, then I'm even just going to throw an error. Stop. Go. Okay, so I should never get to this breakpoint. I'll set one here. We should be hitting that. Yeah, awesome. So this is what I expect to see. But why are we not getting a slot pass through? I have no idea. Entities route. Start in here. Set parent. Should be grabbing slot out of the body. Is it coming through? Quest.body does not have a slot. Okay. So that is definitely going to be an issue either in the calling code or in entity client. Entity client, set parent. I can't easily breakpoint this. I'm not debugging this process. Well, clearly this is sending through something called slot, so it must be undefined. So here slot is attributes to slot. So is this a problem on my actual client code? Oh, oh, this is a nasty bug. Easy to fix. So what's happening is I went and factored out this code that I didn't want to copy and paste, but it's being reused for the from and the to. So this really needs to also have a string operand name. And then in here, I need to make this not from, but operand name. That is kind of nasty. So let's fix that all over the place. It does sound like a lot of fun, Graphic. I'm also a pretty big Firefly fan. Okay, then this just needs to know from. This needs to be to. Start this all up again. Oh, I'm going to have to delete the database on this one because I've got commands with invalid parameters now. Obviously, I need a better approach in the long term. Let's start this up in here. I think I'll debug the entity service. Something seems to have locked up here. IntelliJ's died. Okay. I'm going to have to kill that the old-fashioned way. This is probably going to make a bit of a mess. Nope, wrong process. That got it. I should mention, if anyone wants to send me any footage or anything to get some exposure to attract playtesters or anything like that, do let me know. I'd be more than happy to kind of feature some footage or something like that. Still not quite recovered from this crash. And the reason is that Unity, I think, was running as a sub-process of Rider. Okay. So I will just find Unity and kill it. There we go. Okay, let's see if I can get back working here again. Um, okay. Run that. Hopefully that actually runs this time rather than just locking up and dying. That's looking a lot healthier. Go. Something's crashing on startup. Ah, this is frustrating. All right. All right, let's bring the server down, bring the database down. Down should be deleting the database. So without a client running, we shouldn't be receiving any packets. Yeah, on the topic of having a sort of a passion project, I've interviewed for a fairly large Australian tech company, and on the team I was interviewing with, we'd always ask the candidates to describe a passion project, and it was a great way of kind of breaking the ice and kind of working out who was passionate about tech and who wasn't. If you didn't have anything interesting to describe, then the interview it would be a difficult interview, but we'd know that it wasn't it was someone who was maybe there just to work 9 to 5. Uh, Whereas if someone did have a passion project, then you could kind of really get into how well they could describe designs and things like that. It was a really handy first interview question we used to use. Okay. So I think my server is started, right? Okay, this is looking good. So if I can start Rider and Unity, I reckon the drop code will actually work now. The pickup code will actually work now. Um, Run Unity. Sorry, I'm a little distracted here as well. Another instance is running. No, 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 it's not. It's really not. Uh-oh, what have I done to my computer? Okay, hold on. Okay, over on my other window, I can see that I do have a bunch of Unity stuff running. I don't know what to kill. Wow. Okay, that should now be fixed. Oslath, are you saying my stream is lagging? I can't see. I don't appear to have any dropped frames according to OBS. Maybe I had a few delayed frames getting out. Check what Restream is saying. Restream seems happy as well, so yeah. Maybe it was one of the international connections just lagged for a bit. Oh, you were reacting to Unity loading. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Very appropriate username there over on Twitch, JetBrains, given how many JetBrains products I'm using over here. All right. So, trying to work out where I was at. And ignore that. That's just a little bit of a race condition while it does a first terrain render. I'll check where my breakpoints are at over in the server. I am debugging the entity service. I need the entity controller. So I'm expecting to hit this endpoint when I go and pick up a rock. Yep, hit that breakpoint. That is doing a lot better than it was before. So next, I want to make sure I hit this breakpoint when I put the stone down. Sure enough, I do. Welcome back, Fishtopher. Going well here, trying to sort out that bug that I had on stream yesterday. It turns out that I actually had a pretty serious bug in my set parent code, which is the pickup code, that was preventing the drop code from ever working. The actual JetBrains, huge fan of your products, long time subscriber. Yes, wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't like to have to do all this client-side code in Visual Studio, or the server-side for that matter, in Visual Studio Code, which is what most people seem to use. Very big fan of your stuff. Okay, so I'm still getting an empty result back from here, so there's something still not quite right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to get to the command line here and find out what has happened to this entity. Now, what is the best way of doing that? I need to find the entity ID corresponding to this. I guess I'm just looking for something with. Oh well, thanks for the thought anyway, JetBrains. Yeah, not partnered with Twitch. Only ever get kind of 2 or 3 people coming in on Twitch. Most of the audience is on YouTube. Okay, so the best thing to do here is, I think, for me to hit up that entities endpoint, the one that lets me just fetch all of the entities. And then I'm just going to look for one that has a parent attribute set. Uh, is this just, does every single one have, oh, that doesn't look right. Parent entity is an empty object. Okay. So there's clearly something wrong with the way I'm setting the parent entity. Compass. Yes, I downloaded Compass and I had a bit of a play around with it. And yeah, I have to admit, I just wasn't all that familiar with it. And I've got the REST endpoint here. This kind of does what I want. I guess the advantage of Compass would be that I'd be able to bypass Mongoose. And that would let me confirm whether or not the ID is somehow being planted inside here and then Mongoose hiding it. So, all right, let's do that. MongoDB Compass. Connect. You'll get to see me learn how to use a tool on live stream now. Uh, I don't even know which one it is. It's local. I have no idea how to tell which database it is. It's not going to be config. Surely it's not going to be admin. So test. Yes, here it is. So I assume in here I can do something like parent entity. Let me just look at what this field is called. Click on the collection and type query into the, yes. I just need to know what this field is called. What's it called? Parent entity. And I assume that I can then do a more complex query, something like, is it $NEQ colon undefined or something? No. So what I'm trying to find, I don't know if you can give me a quick hint here, Graphic. Trying to find components with their parent entity populated. So I'll just take a couple of cracks at it. Let's try Mongo query not, well, let's go defined, not undefined. Undefined. There we go. NE null or exists true. Cool. Got there just as I got there, Graphic. Well, with the lag, I had the benefit of lag. Compass. So yep, let's do dollar exists true. Here we go. And the parent entity is what I was expecting. I think JetBrains might have just won. Yeah, okay. So yes, I need a new MongoDB. I am going to try this out. We'll get this as a free ad for JetBrains. Um, localhost 27017. I think it's no auth. Download the missing driver. When I'm doing kind of web REST services professionally, I usually use H2 as a local database when I'm in development, and Postgres when I'm in the cloud. And one of the great things about the IntelliJ driver database system is it's so easy to swap between for example, the staging database and my local development database. And as I've mentioned previously, I don't allow myself to have access to the production database. Okay, so that should hopefully work. Oh, this isn't doing what I want. Uh-oh, this is probably a misconfiguration somewhere. Oh, am I done? Fresh. There we go. Collections, entities. Cool. So this obviously has the indexed fields, but I should be able to just run a query, new query console, and then can I then just do, for example, can I just grab this? Nothing to run. So I probably need to do the actual command. All right, I might need to learn that off stream. But no, that does look pretty good. There's also probably the possibility that I can get this to show me non-indexed fields. Obviously, parent ID should be indexed, but in here, parent ID is an object ID. So this looks like it's an issue in my configuration. Yeah, I might be able to not answer properly, but give a slight indication on the question of aggregations. The way the databases normally work is JetBrains just literally sits on top of whatever the standard open source libraries are. So if the standard MongoDB client, open source client, supports aggregation, then this interface will almost certainly support integration. I just wish I knew what the syntax was in this. But almost certainly it would support aggregation, would be my guess, since the driver does. Okay. So this does have an object ID in it. It looks like a legitimate one. The IDE, the JetBrains one tends not to have much in the way of constructing things for you. So it's great if you, it's a little bit like doing code. I was hoping that I'd just get completion in here, and I'm sure that somewhere in here is where I actually want to do my completion. So it's probably actually something like I don't know. I'm not even going to bother trying. Um, it will give you tab completion and things like that. So uh, how advanced that is, I don't know. Okay, so clearly I've got something wrong with my Mongoose side of things. Hello, Chicken Dev. Currently working on a survival crafting MMO using Unity for the client side, TypeScript for the back end. Yeah, it depends on what you're doing. This is where JetBrains might want to block their ears for a moment. Um, the the full version of the JetBrains suite is not cheap, but if you and which I do have, I've got access to every one of their products. I pay a monthly, I think it's a monthly subscription I pay. Um, and you'll hear that the prices have gone up a bit lately, but it's like literally it's costing me like an extra $4 a month or something like that from their price rise. So the price rise isn't a big issue. Um, but if you're just using it for web development or something, then you can get yourself WebStorm. And WebStorm on a monthly subscription really isn't that expensive, especially if it's for personal use. Um, but I've got the full suite on the commercial license. So I do spend quite a bit per month. I don't know how much it is. Really can't remember. But it's not cheap for the full suite. Um, okay. And if you're developing commercially, just here's another little aside. If you're developing commercially, what is it? Let's actually pull up some pricing. Brains pricing. Um, yes, they got a lot of things like certainly IntelliJ is there's a free version. But if you are doing this stuff, so I presume this is what I'm paying at the moment. Although I'll be on a discount because I have been using it for quite a while. Um, no, I think I'm on this one over here, but again, I am on a discount. Um, the a lot of their products are open source and free. Like there's a not necessarily open source. There's a free version available for a lot of them. But if you're doing it commercially, the benefit is just you save yourself a few hours a month, and you've made your money back already. Okay, back to actual work instead of marketing for JetBrains. Um, uh, so there's going to be something wrong in my Mongoose configuration because I'm getting back an empty object there. Now, it could be as simple as my property name being wrong in Mongoose. Yeah, Visual Studio Community Edition is free, but then you have to use Visual Studio. Um, and yeah, I'd rather pull teeth than use Visual Studio. I know a lot of it is just being familiar with the tool, but the the refactoring tools and auto completion tools in JetBrains products is just it's second to none. Uh, okay. So here I've got the parent entity. Is that the correct name? Parent entity. That is the correct name. Yeah, catch you around, Aaron M guy. Thank you for joining. Transform. I am thoroughly confused. Is it just a silly copy and paste problem? If I come in here, copy, paste. No, that looked like it didn't change anything. Uh, I really don't understand why this isn't working. It's possible that I have seen before, sometimes there are actually two definitions. This is something that annoys me in Mongoose. A random guy. Ah, thank you, Griffic. I'm a bit slow on the uptake sometimes. One of the things that annoys me with Mongoose is there are two different definitions of object ID from memory. Um, it does seem like it should be this one. All right, time to just Google it. Uh, um, the field reference. I'll just kind of. Oh, I didn't know you could do references like this. Mm. I am thoroughly confused here. Why am I not getting out? Oh, no, this might actually not be an issue in my Mongoose configuration. This could be a bit of a silly thing I've done in the way I um, grab the objects out and convert them onto the REST endpoints. So you can see over here, we've got an actual parent entity. Here's an ID. I made a mistake when I started developing this stuff in my entity controller. Right, wake up. Entity controller. I've got this silly toDTO method. I didn't realize that Mongo had something built into it to pretty much do what this is doing. So what I might actually do is I might just return entity.toObject, which is the proper way of doing it in Mongoose. Now, this is now complaining because I presume that I'm getting non-IDs in here or something. Which window is that, Osleth? The compass window? Certainly pop that over here, I think. Nope, I can't. Why not? Looks a bit annoying. Very annoying. The database one, yeah, that one does pop out, but without working out how to use the console, I'm not sure. It seems to be looking for JavaScript. And I'm just not sure off the top of my head how to access the main query object. Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe I will just quickly work out how to do a query in there. It might be easier. But I am pretty confident that the issue here is in my entity code. Well, it's one of the issues. I've also got the problem that the query is not finding any items, uh, even though we know that looking over in here. Oh well, here we go. um, I have a is that funny character? Ah, there we go. Um, so I think this is actually one of the things I made a note of. Um, okay, I'm getting a bit of a stack here. Let me just pull up my little text thing here. Uh, entity component is not creating DTOs properly. This one's done. Set parent is getting sent through now. But you'll notice that when we put this into the database, we've set the slot to primary hand. But when I was getting the component, when I was getting the, what's it called, the set location, this slot is actually something different. It is primary hand and then in brackets inventory slot. And I do know exactly what this is. I can fix that one really easily. I'm jumping all over the place, aren't I? Somewhere in here we set the slot, which is here. And this slot is set to string. If we come back up into here, in the from, somewhere I must be calling toString on the wrong thing. Now pickup, I believe, is setting the right thing. So this is setting slot to be with.name. Yeah, here we go. And put down is setting slot to be with. I'm pressing the wrong buttons all over the place. Problem is, sometimes I can't see my keyboard with the microphone in front of me, and I'm a bit of a. I like to look at my keyboard a lot. And this is where one of my mistakes is. That should be .name. Now, because I decided to go and do a refactor up in here somewhere, sorry, I'll just get a bit more real estate here. Restart my server. Yeah, that's a good point there, Griffic. It'd be pretty easy for me to define an interface or something so that everything I was using, everything that I was creating and passing around, had a serialized method and a deserialized method. And that way I'd be forced to define them and I'd just be able to use serializers instead of calling toString. It's a really good point. Undefined reading credentials. I've broken something. Let's just see where this first failed. Just make sure that it is just the one issue. Sorry, I'm probably in the way of that. Okay, that should make it a bit better. Coming up here. Lots of traffic coming out of Mongoose. Here we go. All right, so Kai is crashing. And it's not clear why. So what I'll do is I'll actually revert this change for now. I do need to do something in here. So instead, this is calling, oops, that's meant to be like that. Instead of calling this deep trim value, which all it's doing is it's pulling off the underscore doc attributes and underscore IDs and things. And this is most likely seeing, it's a fair bit of code here. It's most likely finding that there's an object ID and it's going and just ignoring it for some reason. Or it's stripping out its values because they start with underscores or something like that. And yeah, so hopefully I can get it working just with the old code. I doubt it will because the parent ID won't be getting sent through to the client properly. Maybe. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure, Griffic. All I know is we've got 2 on Twitch at the moment and 7 on YouTube. Although that number that I see sometimes lags. Double the watch time. Well, funny thing about streaming on YouTube is YouTube does not give credit for live watch time, which is a interesting little thing. They only count replay watch time. So I usually get about anywhere from 500 to 1,000 minutes of watch time from each of these streams. But yeah, none of it counts towards my stats. Bit annoying, but that is the way it is. Yeah, I myself, I've never really gotten into Twitch streams, and I don't really know how to market them. Yeah, it does sound crazy. I'm not sure what the reason for it is. They report the watch time in my analytics, but it doesn't get credited to my, on um, the monetization side of things. They don't give credit. Like you need the 4,000 hours or whatever it is before they'll start giving you AdSense revenue, and yeah, the lifetime does not count. Um, all right. I'm not sure if once you have AdSense, I'm not sure if they pay you AdSense. I'm surely they pay you AdSense revenue for your streams at that point. Um, okay, I'm trying to work out where I'm at. We've got the server running. I should be able to connect a client. I already have a client connected. Uh-oh. Okay, we pick up a stone. We drop a stone. Now if I come back, I need to, sorry, I need to completely blow everything away because I stop that. I'm going to end up with some broken commands. I just don't have this cleanup code written yet, so whenever I get corrupt commands, I'm just going to have to blow away the database. I didn't see your earlier comment, Christopher, and it could just be that I wasn't paying attention. Your comment is there in my backlog, so apologies for missing that. No, I don't plan to make this moddable. Whether or not I allow visual mods or something later, maybe, but certainly not gameplay mods, because I think the ability to the propensity for people to make game breaking changes in a massively multiplayer game just isn't worth it. All right. So with the game now hopefully running in a moment. Then do I not have Unity running at all now? I must have hit stop on Unity. I'm really not paying attention. The inventory slot object on the client side is um, I believe it's a scriptable object actually. Uh, no, it's not a scriptable object. It's an entity attached to the player. Uh, no, I really can't remember. Player inventory. Yes, here are the actual inventory slot definitions, and these inventory slot components have information about how much they can hold, uh, and most importantly, they have the name, which is just primary slot, secondary slot. Sorry, primary hand, secondary hand. These will ultimately get nested into other objects like backpacks and things like that, but the player themselves will have these two primary slots and then some other kind of wearable slots. So a spot that a backpack can go. Uh, I have no intention to have them be able to just kind of carry inventory without a place for it to go. So that's one of the things that's a little different about my game compared to most survival crafting games. Now, let's just try this out. We're going to fall through the floor. I keep on mentioning that this race condition at the start where you fall through the terrain, I keep on describing it as a race condition. But it's actually just that the player is in the game. The player object is in the game and has gravity applied to them, and then doesn't get spawned until the terrain comes in, terrain loads. So once that terrain loads, it then spawns the player. So that first drop is actually just because the player shouldn't have gravity turned on, or the screen should be blanked out or something like that. Okay, let's pick that stone up. Let's drop that stone. Then over here, I'm debugging the wrong service. It's the ticker service that's responsible for executing the commands. So I'll just make sure that command is executing properly. Welcome back, and I've been informed that I should be pronouncing your name a random guy rather than me trying to put the M in there as a separate as a separate letter. So apologies for not getting the joke. All right. What am I trying to do here? I'm trying to get the set. Oh, I am meant to be in the entity service. What am I doing? I'm so distracted today. So Oslath. Yes, so this is two things. One is overloaded terminology, and the other one is me using the wrong terminology. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that the inventory slots were entities. They are game objects. They are not entities on the server. Uh, so once this server is restarted, so coming back to here, yes, so these are not entities. They are just game objects in Unity. Now, there isn't a need for them necessarily to be separate game objects. These could just be these components applied directly to the player. I've just decided to break them out into separate game objects so that they can be referenced as game objects if needed. When I do start putting slots into things like backpacks, then obviously those components will need to be, those slots will need to be applied to a backpack game object. So yeah, that was bad terminology on my part. I keep on getting confused between game objects, and which are the client side thing, and entities, which are my server side ECS style entities. So yeah, my bad on the terminology there. But really, they're components that just store a capacity and can be referenced. Is the other important thing there. So a game, there's a game object. No, when something gets picked up on the client side, it gets put into I believe it actually gets put as a parameter on here, but it also different things can reference these hands. So there is a, if I can get back into 2D mode, scene 2D. Where's my screen? Canvas. So you can see here I've got the. It's not letting me select that. Canvas, HUD, bottom center, inventory. So you can see here we've got one of these slots, and somewhere there is a binding. No, not that. Here's the items container. So this is the thing that displays like the picture and things in there. And you can see it actually references that game object, the player's primary hand. Whereas this one over here will reference the player's secondary hand. In fact, that's why I've done them as game objects. I could have done them as components. Turn that off, get back into play mode. Okay, we are in the game. We can pick up stone, we can drop the stone. Then back in here, no, back in here. Did you, Griffith, I assume you forgot to transpile? Is that the issue there? All the transpiling for me all just happens behind the scenes. I think I'm using Babel for that. No, I'm using TS Node. What am I talking about? I'm using TS Node. So I genuinely don't have any JavaScript files in any of my libraries. Yeah, the problem is Oslath, um, if you just have them as bare objects, then you can't easily reference them from within the game hierarchy. So that example of the actual inventory slot UI, I want it to directly bind to an inventory slot, and that is very difficult to do if they're just bare objects. So I'm kind of using them as scripting objects in principle. They are game objects, but they're kind of like scripting objects the way I'm using them. Excellent, a random guy. Good to. I hope I've incentivized you to do that. Okay. Now I'm going to try and work out where my actual. I've got the code down the bottom. Let's come all the way down to the bottom. Let's unbreak point here. And then, okay, try and get the entity. Yay, we have an entity. So we're trying to find an entity that has a particular parent ID. So this should be a stone, right? Let's just confirm that it is a stone. Item, it is a flat stone. Excellent. Okay, time to do a proper test now. So if I take all the stones, sometimes I need to press that twice for some reason. I'll take all of the flat stones out of the sand area. In fact, I'll take all the stones out of there. Drop that. Oh, what was that? Oh, I never dropped it. Something wrong with my UI there. Okay. Now if I press come out and come back in, I should be able to pick up a stone and put it down in the middle of the grass. Well, let's just grab that one, not the grass, the sand. We drop that there. Step out of the way of the spawning point. "2D survival game." Yeah, that's awesome. Um, yeah, and this is all going to get rewritten is the other thing. So the previous way of doing it was because the client was the one of the main things I was factoring in was that the client was a source of truth, whereas that is no longer the truth. No longer the fact. Now my stone is not appearing there still. So let's go and find out which items we have that are held by parent IDs. Oh, we've got so many of them. Okay, scratch that. Let's blow away the database. Bring the whole thing back up. I just want to be able to follow a single instance of an object. Start the game. Pick up a rock. Now if we come to compass, There we go, we've got a single rock. I'm going to grab this object ID. Let's just throw that into my little text file over here. This has been fixed. This is the stone that I'm picking up. Let's grab some other properties like the parent ID. Okay. So when I drop it, we expect to see, is a really handy feature, the fact that I'm not deleting these commands and just executing them over and over again means that I can just keep on watching them execute. So up here, we tried to set the location to be chunk is the origin, hex is just some coordinate, y is about 17, I'm guessing. 18, there we go. Shouldn't have a parent, shouldn't have a slot. Oh, we don't set a transform on it. You're heading off, are you, Chicken Dev? Thank you for joining. I don't actually pass through the transform, do I? I don't. I might just change that so that we see where it placed it. And I'll cheat by passing through a normal as well. Don't want to pass through too many parameters here, so let's just tidy this up a bit. Pass this through as a new coordinate. That. And then I'll also pass through the position and the normal. Not too many parameters, he says. Okay, so come back here, get rid of this because that's all died anyway. Yeah, my commands will need undo. On the client side, they'll need undo. They'll need hate to think about what they'll need on the server side. So let's just go for coordinate is a coordinate. Position is a vector 3 and normal is a vector 3. I hope we're the right kind of vector 3. I think that's our common chords code. The coordinate type is not quite right, so that needs to be coord.uv. X is... I should probably have been a bit more consistent about how I referenced chunks and hexes versus UV and QR, but this is what I have for now. So that transform is going to be the position. I don't actually use the normal here yet, but obviously I should be using the normal. Let's put it to do. use normal to determine rotation. All right. I think that should actually, I don't even think I even need to blow away the database. Because the ticker is still going to get the same data. Position is undefined, so that's a pain. Why would position be undefined? Oh, because the ticker service is not sending through. Well, entities client position and rotation. Yeah, I imagine plugins are one of those things that are easier to design right from the get-go, but having to maintain the boilerplate would get pretty annoying. Okay. I need to pass through. I think that's correct as it is, but position and normal. And where's the ticker? There's the ticker. Set location. Target, comma, target point. Doesn't really matter, vector 3.0, I guess. Actually, no, that's going to cause problems. I'll just set it to up. Otherwise, I'm sure I'm going to end up with a divide by zeros at some point and wonder what on earth I was doing. But up at least seems like a fair normal by default. Okay, I've lost my connection to Docker. Not a design for, just a potential for iteration. I like it. Oh, that's, I don't want to update software now. Do I really need a player in the game to test this at the moment? No, I'm not quite at that point. I'm actually wanting to hit this endpoint and see the transform getting set. That doesn't look promising. Hmm. There's position. Looks plausible. Something's timing out really easily. It's a bit of a worry. Oh, at least it's bouncing back. Okay, so let's just test this. I'll just grab a rock, a round rock, drop it back into the center of there. What's the title for your game at Random Go? I promise not to steal it, even though I'm still trying to find one. I've got to come up with a name for my game at some point. I don't know what's wrong here. This is really strange. I seem to be losing my items. I've got a horrible feeling that this is somehow deleting. Oh, well, I captured one of the object IDs, didn't I? So let's just see what happened to this item number. Uh, can I create a second? Yeah, get it. Underscore ID is going to be that. Hmm. Ah, thank you, Graphic. Excellent. So now I can try and find that actual stone. There's the stone ID. There it is. It is a transform, but not a location. So that will stop it from getting found in the yeah, sorry, when it comes through to do when the client goes to load static entities, so I just bumped my light, this will not get returned because it's looking for things within a particular chunk. Now, while the transform has its correct, I presume, position, yeah, that looks roundabout right. And rotation is just going to be whatever. The location needs to be set. So I'm going to blame this piece of code here. Catch you around, random guy. Thank you for joining. I do expect to be streaming at the same time. Okay, I'm suspecting that this line is just not doing what I want. Ah, I know exactly what this is. Might as well show everyone what this is. Let's just get this back to where it was. So the issue here is by default, TypeScript kind of this will get converted basically to JSON, or at least it'll have its keys enumerated. And then when it enumerates the keys of a chunk coordinate, it's going to come in here. It's going to see this one. It's going to see this one. But what it's not going to see is this one with a synthetic getter. Because we don't store the W value. That's just computed from the U and the V. But the problem is the Mongo code requires a W. Now, why it's not being stored in there, I don't know. But maybe that doesn't entirely explain it. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to hit a breakpoint on here. I'm going to pick something up. I can find this client. There we go. We'll pick something up. We'll drop it, which hits this breakpoint. And I crashed. I should probably raise that. I don't know if the JetBrains people are still in the chat. I very much doubt it at this point, but I should probably raise that at some point as a bug. They do have responsive support, so because I don't believe that's my stuff causing that problem. It may not be JetBrains either. It could be something to do with the node distribution I'm using. So let's see, what have we got? We've got chunk dot. Catch around, Oslath. Thank you for joining. I will probably not stream a huge amount longer. Oh, you are. Yeah, so I do keep on running into an issue. I have no idea if it's a JetBrains issue or a problem with Node or the Docker interface for the Docker run target for JetBrains. If I hit a breakpoint before my Docker compose has come up, it sometimes just crashes and won't. It never fetches any results here in the in the local variables. I'll probably raise an issue for that, but it's really quite strange. I sometimes just need to restart my service but it has something to do with hitting breakpoints and something to do with hitting it too early in the life cycle of the services. It's quite strange. So I'll raise an issue for that. But yeah, JetBrains is awesome. They have awesome support. I've had a few issues that I've had that have been fixed in a really short period of time. Position, location we're setting here. Got this QR. So it is getting set. And in fact, I can probably demonstrate the issue just for the sake of it. If I restart the service and put a breakpoint before the service starts and we hit it, all right, this time it worked. But just every now and then, if it hits a breakpoint too early, these local variables just never populate and the server claims that it's crashed. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that, JetBrains. Thank you. Okay, so moving back to trying to understand what's happened here. We've had an acknowledged update go through. What resource did I use to learn Unity? That's a good question. I think that a lot of the basics I got from Bracky's. He doesn't make videos anymore, but a lot of his videos are still relevant. I'll just type it in. Brackeys, I think it was. Yeah, not a problem, JetBrains. So yeah, I'll definitely raise an issue for that and see how that goes. It's entirely possible it's not a JetBrains issue, and it's possible it's a Docker thing. Like you can see here, this is completely reasonable behavior. This container has failed to come up. Not this container, sorry. This stack has failed to come up. In this case, it's totally reasonable because I've hit a breakpoint, and it's before I've been able to get any health checks reported. So obviously, this service that I've breakpointed has not had its health check come back. So the stack is reported from Docker as being unhealthy, and that's expected behavior in this case. So it could likewise be something similar or something to do with Node, the version of Node that I'm running. But I'll see how much information I can collect and get that into an issue tracker report. Okay. So why is this not happening? Why is this not working properly? I really don't know. And now I unfortunately can't kill my debug session. That's all right. What I'll do is I'll just restart it, stop it straight away. Okay. So I suspect that what is happening is something is not getting set correctly in here. So let's do set location. We'll set chunk to be that. I'm just going to do this all in full. U is chunk chord dot u b dot b, and we've got this other w component. No, so the issue I'm seeing is a sporadic one. So it's not that I'm not using the variable, it's that that entire list of variables comes back as undefined. And then if I try to step forward, the node process will report a segmentation fault. And it's the sporadicness of it that, I know that even in simple code where things are definitely getting defined, it can happen. Yeah, my guess is that it's a version of Node, something about the way that IntelliJ is connecting to those processes is breaking Node itself, which I'm definitely not saying is IntelliJ's fault. Because a seg fault would definitely suggest that it's something else. Terrific. Can't spell. I can't see where your spelling mistake is. I won't hold back on the rants. And hey, if you guys want a sponsorship spot, let me know. I'm small on Twitch, but I'm up over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube now. Because as I said, I am a big fan. Oh, in your code you can't spell. Yeah, I'm appalling with the spelling, and I can never decide if I'm going to use Australian or British spelling. Consistency is the key, Graphic. Consistency. Okay. These are being highlighted differently because they're synthetic. How much of the game have I completed? I would guess at maybe a quarter. In terms of getting it to very initial play tests, just to see if the main mechanics are fun, I'm really hoping in a few weeks to have the first play testers come in just to try a couple of the main gameplay loops. But in terms of having a releasable game, I'm a small fraction of the way through. And yeah, there are a lot of mechanics that I need to implement. Heaps of work to do on graphics. A lot of kind of lore or world building stuff. So I've got to come up with all the mobs. I won't. I'll likely get other people to do the graphic design and things because I'm atrocious on the graphic design. But yeah, I've got a long way to go. My hope is that I can do a bit of playtesting, get a bit of interest, and then maybe I can rationalize putting some more resources into it. Okay. This should work. I think now I'll just check the mongoose definitions. Just make sure that location. Yep, it does have a chunk. It does have a hex. It does have a Y. And then chunk has a UVW. Hex has a QRS. Yeah, I think this is. Let's just give this another go. Start the game. Yeah, back to the question of how far through the game I am. It's a really tough question because I mean, at the moment I'm basically rewriting stuff that had been implemented in C# and porting it across to Node. And I mean, once that's done in a generic way, ugh, is what happens when I delete the database. There we go. Once that's done in a generic way, hopefully stuff will start progressing a bit faster. Okay, we pick up a rock. Let's find that rock. I'd love a history on this. Bit annoying. Parent entity. Dollar exists. So here is my stone. that's the one I'll track. Get rid of that parent ID, you don't really care about that. If I now go and drop this up there, actually just drop a couple of stones next to each other over here. Okay. It's like a walrus or something. Does my system currently support a player loading in while another player is holding a rock? Yes, that will currently be working. The rock being held by the player will not have a location, so will not get found as that player gets data sent to them. And then when that player is the other player, when they go and drop the stone on the ground, even if player two, so me at the moment, even if player two were not aware of that entity originally, thank you, JetBrains. Yeah, it would be awesome if anything like that were possible. I know you guys don't have a public referral program or anything, but yeah, the channel's growing quickly though. So if you guys are interested, then do let me know over on YouTube or over here on Twitch. Or I can even, I don't know if YouTube will, if Twitch will let me, there you go, there's my email address. You all have my email address now. Okay, so back to square one. So why can't I see these items being placed down? Oh, I don't really want to stop the services, do I? It's okay. I can spin them up in IntelliJ again. And then once they're up, we'll check if we have... You can get my email address from my YouTube channel anyway. I'm not too protective of that particular email address. Although the bots all just probably got access to it, whereas they'd have to go click a button otherwise and agree that they're not a bot. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to find my... Ah, awesome. Thanks, JetBrains. I can't find my... There it is. Now, this is another ad for JetBrains. I should really be putting, rather than putting this in gedit, I should really be putting that over in a Scratch, over in IntelliJ. In fact, let's do that now. Plain text. There we go. There's my ID. That means that I can get back to that much more easily. Okay. So we grab that ID. And now I want history. So let's just go and throw that one over in here. And let's do an underscore ID, object ID. I'm going to do that. Still got no location. How frustrating is that? But I know it can be updated. And the reason I know it can be updated is because we set them in the first place. I mean, I can hit up my REST endpoint. And these are definitely getting... Ah. An update should be able to fill these in. I mean, these are being done as embedded documents. So they won't have IDs. So maybe I am meant to be doing an upsert on here, but I'll just try it. I doubt that's it, because I don't want to insert into the entity table here. This that I want to be upserting. Yeah, okay. I have a feeling Griffic is about to tell me how to do this, but I'll race Griffic with a quick Google. I want to just, there's going to have to be an operation. So rather than doing an update with just this parameter, well, just with these fields, I probably need to be using like a $set or something on this one and passing a parameter through to somehow get it to do an upsert. Upsert nested upsert subdocument. I've even looked for this before. Document. Oh no, this is an array. I don't want arrays. Arrays. I just want the nested object. They're not called nested, are they? They're embedded, and I don't want mongoose. I want mongo. Yeah, without a doubt, Mason. It's the ability for it to kind of just refactor your code uh, is just second to none. It's so easy just to take something like deciding that this piece of code here is actually going to be used in multiple places, and I can just press Control M, and it will go and let me pull this out into just some other function called whatever, and it works out what the parameters are to that function. I'll just undo that. You can do things like taking, this piece of code here. Probably don't have any really good examples of this, but I can put in a fake example here. Let's say this had another parameter called foo, and I can just go and take this and press Control-Alt-V, I think it is, and that will go and turn this into a local variable, but it will give me the option to just replace both of those and call it whatever I want. It comes up with a good, sensible name for it. So that refactoring support is really, really, really powerful. It works across so many different languages if you have the full suite. Even IntelliJ itself works across a lot of languages. So yeah, definitely my preferred IDE. I've used a lot of IDEs, and I used to be a Java developer, and that's when I was originally exposed to JetBrains products. I went from, I don't remember what the other big one is, Eclipse. I moved from Eclipse over to JetBrains, and I was a bit, I don't know, reluctant at first to change across. I found it a little difficult to get used to at first, but once I was used to it, it was just an absolute no-brainer for everything I was doing. These days I do projects in Java, React, TypeScript here, C#. I've done Swift through their app code product, C++ through CLion, and it's just anytime you change language, the editor is just almost exactly the same. So it's good for people moving between technologies as well. All right. So I still don't know what's going wrong here. I don't like this upsert because, well, there are two reasons. One is that, welcome back, a random guy. The reason I don't want this upsert is if it doesn't find this ID for some reason, I don't want it to go and create a new record. So upsert is not what I want. The other issue I have is that I'm able to pass this position through absolutely fine. So something else must be going on here because it's able to set the position. I mean, is it correctly updating the position? JetBrains is back end. You know what we're saying? Java, C++, and Python. It's you don't sound like a front end developer there, JetBrains. Okay. I don't even know where to start on this bug. I mean, we are in a distributed environment, right? And I do have this horrible, horrible hack, which is that I'm not deleting any commands. I'm just letting them execute over and over and over again. So what if the issue is actually that these two operations, the pickup operation followed by the drop operation, what if they're stomping on each other? So what if I just comment that out? And then, well, I need to have it in so that I can actually pick up the rock. So let's go pick up the rock. Pick a different rock. Let's go for this one. We'll grab its ID. I'm not ending in 48. That. Oh, I've got lots of them. Whatever. So we've got a picked up stone now. I should be able to now turn off the code that's processing those pickups. Make sure the service is happy. The last breakpoint I hit, I think, has just thrown everything into disarray. Then, if I drop the stone, oh, I need a better breakpoint. I'll get a breakpoint in. These breakpoints are perfect. So I drop the stone. You can, of course, try out JetBrains for free. The community edition is really quite full-powered. You know, if you're a Java Spring developer, then the only things you miss out on, you know, just as a complete example, the only things you miss out on are the ability to, from memory, kind of jump around between your different bean definitions. It's got some really nice little quality of life benefits to using the paid version. Well, I hope you're enjoying it, Mason. If you like this kind of thing, I do stream most weekdays from about midnight UTC. I also have a fortnightly kind of episode. It's about 10 to 15 minutes long that just covers what I've been doing in the last 2 weeks. More scripted and edited than my streams, obviously. So we do that. we grab the updated entity. So yeah, subscribe if you're into that kind of thing. I guess I can't even find it. Okay. Time has come to blow away my database again. I don't know what state anything is in. So we'll stop that. Where's my window to blow away my database? Quit down. Compose Docker down. Start it up again. I'll definitely need to take this client out. They will fall through the floor as I load them back in because we have no terrain. Known bug. Now, hopefully I get to the bottom of this soon. I am probably going to finish up the stream pretty soon anyway. The terrain. There we go. All right, here is my stone ID. He has no location. He's got a parent ID and a slot. Then I'm going to comment out this code so that he's not repeatedly being picked up. Let's check it. He still just has no location. Oh, he does have a transform. I bet you this is just not getting updated at all. So there's just a copy of the object. So I can compare it later. So when I drop it, hang on, let me make sure that everything is ready. It's not the one. Down here. Okay, so now when I drop it, updated result, updated 0 records. I don't believe it. I was missing an underscore. Just to note, that crash I had just then was not the same as the usual issue I have on the server starting up. That will have been because I had hit a breakpoint and did a recompile, so I don't expect it to survive recompiling while it's paused on a breakpoint. And it's not the IDE that's responsible for that rebuild. That's happening. That's Docker doing that rebuild. Well, not Docker, sorry. It's Node doing the rebuild. NPM. I'm bound to get there sooner or later. Okay. So now when we come in here, my updated result still has none. Entity. This is all completely broken. Like, this is almost embarrassing. This is meant to have just found one. That should crash. Totally reasonably crash. Yeah, so there are a few problems here. One is that I was trying to get the entity.id, but coming out of Mongo, it's actually meant to be underscore ID. This find operation was finding multiple, well, it was finding a single thing, but it could potentially have been finding multiple ones. Which just doesn't make any sense. The ID, okay, I'm going to have to look into underscore doc. So that's meant to be id dot underscore doc dot ID. Now, I should have some sort of protection in there to make sure that it actually found something. One piece of advice I have moving from another IDE to JetBrains is I would recommend you stick with the JetBrains key bindings. You can change to other key bindings, but I very strongly recommend just trying to build up, fight that urge to maintain your muscle memory, and just be willing to learn the new key combinations. You've always got, what is it, Control Shift A. Will always let you do a search for, I don't know, refactor, and it's a really bad example because that didn't bring up any key combinations. Maybe you want to do a save. All right, save all is Control S. So yeah, Control Shift A is your friend. It will let you search for any operation and help you learn your keyboard shortcuts. What's an example? Delete line. Let's go. Delete line. There you go. It's Control Y. Okay. So I think that this will work if it runs. F8, update result. It modified something. This is looking good. Updated entity has a location. Yay. Okay, so let's, no, I'm going to stop it. Stop. Do what I want, not what I say. Control, holding the second control and pressing the down arrow. No, I don't. I hope this isn't a prank. Um, control down. Oh, scroll. Is that what it's meant to be doing? Down, down, up? No, that doesn't seem right. I am on Linux, so some of my key bindings will not do the same thing. On Linux, there is a little bit of rebinding you sometimes have to do in IntelliJ just because, well, Ubuntu anyway. In Ubuntu, sometimes the window manager will swallow some of your key bindings. Hold down the second control, pressing down arrow. Yeah, no, that just seems to be doing a single control. It doesn't seem to know the difference between my two controls. Yep. Oh, okay. So I usually just use the mouse. I was always wanting to know what the key shortcut was for that because I usually use the Alt button. So Alt and drag will give me my multiple carrots. Um, uh, yeah, so yeah, I used to work for one of their kind of competitors. Not in this business unit, but I'm sure they can work out who that was. Also one of their bigger customers, I suspect. Yeah, so I don't know how to get the additional carrots. Control, so holding down the two control keys and do that. No, control tap. Oh, sorry, I misunderstood your instruction. Got it. So tap control, then hold control. Awesome. I've always wanted to know how to do that on the keyboard without using the mouse. Thank you very much for that, JetBrains. Yeah, it's really handy um, to demonstrate. I'll just do it with the mouse. Uh, it can be really good if I wanted to take uh, something like, oh, this is a really silly example. Just say I wanted to rename all of these to, instead of U, V, and W, I wanted them to be uint, vint, and wint. I can just select down there, and then I can just type into all of them at once, like that. And one of the cool things is you also get tab completion. So, I can do something like coord, and it knows that I want to type coord there. You can still select stuff, so you can go and select those and then overwrite something with foo. It's a really, really handy editor mode. I think Visual Studio does something similar to that as well. But yeah, I use that all the time, JetBrains. Just I didn't know the key combination for it, so I'm glad I know that now. Control Shift Insert is the bane of my existence, I have to admit. At some point, one day I accidentally hit Control Shift Insert. That's it's not doing it for me at the moment. I might have disabled that that key shortcut because at some point I got into column mode and couldn't work out how the hell to get out of it. Took me a long time to find what I had pressed to because I didn't know which mode I had turned on. Work out how to get into it now. I'm just getting paste if I do control shift insert. Yeah, no, I can't. Control shift insert just does a paste for me now, like a paste from history. That's another nice thing. You can get a paste. Yeah, I don't think I could find. I didn't know that I was in column mode. Like I didn't know that was the name of it. I think going back a long time. It was when I started using JetBrains products, to be clear. But being able to paste from all of your history is quite nice. So just because you copy something out, if you've pasted it before, you still get access to it in your clipboard, which is awesome. Probably shouldn't be doing that on stream in case I've copied something sensitive out, but Okay. Where was I? I've lost track of where I was at. Okay, I've brought down Docker. I am going to bring it up again with a fresh database. I think I broke something here while demonstrating. Oh no, this is not the demonstration's fault. This is in here. This is going to be undefined or something, right? Property null. Yeah, okay. So I do need to put protection in here against this not returning a result. I presume entity is null here. Yeah. So I'll just say if not entity log.warn attempting to set location on non-existent entity. I enjoy the distraction, JetBrains. It makes it a lot more fun. Oh, right. Now, the reason this is actually failing is because I've disabled the code to do the pickup. And so what's happening is on every frame, because I'm not deleting commands once they're processed, it's doing the pickup, it's doing the drop, and then continuing on. But once I disabled the pickup, it's doing the drop, and then it's trying to repeat the drop. Now, I've said on stream a few times that one of the keys to distributed software is that operations need to be what's called idempotent. So that is, if you repeat a function, like this function call here, with the same parameters, you should, if you call it multiple times, you should just get the same result as if you called it once. So this is a case where we legitimately might have two things try to process the put down at the one time. And so we probably shouldn't be warning here. This is not a warn. This is in fact just if we don't have an entity with that parent and that slot, then it means that something has likely already been dropped from this slot. Therefore, we have nothing to do. So that's the key to idempotence here. Rather than crashing or even logging, I'm just going to say, all right, we've got nothing to do. It seems the location must have, not to do, it's just explanation. It seems the location must have already been set. There's nothing for us to do here. This is a totally normal case in a distributed system. So it's normal. Yeah, that's all good. Run through. Our server is not recovering from being in a breakpoint that long. Let's bring it back up. All right, I reckon, I think I did blow away the database, but I reckon I've got a really good feeling here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just make absolutely sure that I'm testing this from a known state. Bring the server down. Bring the database down. Start it up. Get rid of all my breakpoints. I'm still streaming Graphic, not for much longer. I am just that close to getting this working that I couldn't bear to stop. Okay, so I have my server running. It appears to be running correctly. Well, thanks for joining, Griffic. I don't expect to be streaming more than about 5 more minutes. On terrain, load. I really thought I was going to get the drop code working because it's, I mean, it all comes down to one tiny little bug. And the refactored netcode is ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to pick that up. I'm going to drop that. The last 2 days of stream title have been ambitious because I keep on saying that I'm going to be working on the harvesting system. And I need all of this pick up and dropping code to be working before I can do the harvesting. Oh, how frustrating. Wait, pick that up. Drop it. Stand next to this other player. This might just be the transform not being set properly. Yes. This is the transform not being set properly. Thank you for joining, Mason. I look forward to seeing you next time. So, if I just look at Mongoose, I'd say I have nothing in this state. Find nothing in that state. Excellent. If I pick up this rock. Oh. Ah. Yes. All right. Let's just put that back down. I know exactly what the problem is here. I commented out a very important line of code. Is this one just here? We pick it up. We drop it. Come back in. And where's the stone? All right. I'm going to have to track this down off stream. I'm pretty sure this is just a matter of the transform not being updated correctly. Because the fact that the stone is reappearing again in the same spot does suggest to me that, I think it's the same one, does suggest to me that the drop code is mostly working, just potentially using the wrong, X, Y, and Z coordinates. It's somehow picking up its old X, Y, and Z coordinates. No, it is yeah, there it is. Oh, hold on, it's working. Look, we pick it up, we drop it over here. Let's go and take this one from over here and drop it down into the middle of the grass, into the middle of the sand. Oh, I hope I'm finishing on a good note here. And then in front of that other player, we should see. There we go. All right, I am calling that a win. Pick up and drop are working, so I'm going to commit that. And then off stream, I might get to work on the integrating my new optimized netcode, which I'm going to start off with writing a bunch of unit tests just to make sure that it works because it's completely untested. So thank you everyone for joining me. Thank you particularly JetBrains for popping in and helping out. And I look forward, I'll be streaming same time tomorrow. And look forward to seeing you all then. Catch you around.